My name is Luna. I'm 27 and I work as a nurse at a hospital in Milwaukee. For the last 5 years, I've been living with my mom in her house, the same house I grew up in. It wasn't supposed to be forever, but life has a way of changing your plans whether you like it or not. 3 years ago, Mom got diagnosed with diabetes and high blood pressure. The doctor sat us down and explained she'd need medication, regular monitoring, and lifestyle changes. I took over everything: the bills, the groceries, her medications, doctor's appointments, making sure she ate right and took her pills on time. Between my job at the hospital and taking care of Mom, I barely had time to breathe. I didn't mind, really. She's my mom. But sometimes I'd lie awake at night doing math in my head, watching my savings account get smaller and smaller, wondering if I'd ever be able to afford my own place again. My older brother Matthew is 32. He's been living in Seattle with his wife Nicole for 8 years now. In all that time, he's visited maybe 3 times. Christmas one year, Mom's birthday another time, and once when he was passing through for work. He never sent money, never called to ask how Mom was doing with her health, never offered to help with anything. But Mom, she talked about him like he was some kind of hero. Matthew's doing so well in Seattle, she'd say. He's working so hard. Meanwhile, I'd be standing right there, just back from a 12-hour shift, and she'd barely look up from her phone where she was texting him. It's not like this favoritism was new. Growing up, Matthew was always the golden child. When I was 7 and he was 12, we both wanted to take music lessons. I wanted piano. He wanted guitar. Mom said we could only afford one. So of course Matthew got his guitar lessons. I got nothing. When I was in high school, I made honor roll every semester. Matthew barely graduated. But when he got accepted to community college, Mom threw him a party and invited all the relatives. When I got accepted to nursing school with a partial scholarship, she said, "That's nice, honey," and went back to watching TV. I learned to live with it. That's just how it was. Matthew was her favorite, and nothing I did would ever change that. So I worked my shifts, paid the bills, took care of Mom, and tried not to think too hard about how unfair it all felt. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving this year, Mom's phone rang during dinner. She looked at the screen and her whole face lit up. "It's Matthew," she said, like he was calling from space instead of Seattle. I stirred the soup and half listened to her side of the conversation. A lot of, "Oh no," and of course, "honey," and "well, figure it out." When she hung up, she turned to me with this worried expression. "Matthew and Nicole are having some financial troubles," she said. "They need to move in here for a while, just temporarily until they get back on their feet." My stomach dropped. "Move in here when?" "They're driving down next week. Isn't that wonderful? I'll finally get to see my boy more often." Wonderful wasn't the word I would have used. Matthew and Nicole arrived the week before Thanksgiving with a U-Haul full of stuff. I took the afternoon off work to help them unload, even though my back was killing me from lifting patients all week. Nicole walked into the house like she owned it, looking around with this expression like she was judging every piece of furniture. She's one of those people who always looks put together, even in jeans and a t-shirt. Meanwhile, I was in my scrubs, hadn't washed my hair in 2 days, and probably smelled like hospital disinfectant. They started carrying boxes upstairs, and I followed them. They walked right past the guest room and into my bedroom. I said, "That's my room." Nicole turned around. "Oh, we know, but we need a real bedroom. We're a couple. Your mom said you could move into the laundry room." I stared at her. "The laundry room? It's just temporary," Matthew added quickly. "And you're just one person. We need the space more." I looked at Mom, who was hovering in the hallway. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Luna, honey, it makes sense." She said they need a proper room. The laundry room has plenty of space for a cot. I wanted to argue. I wanted to point out that this waste knickly my house too. that I'd been paying the mortgage for 3 years, but Matthew and Nicole were already unpacking, and Mom was smiling at them like this was all perfectly normal. So I moved my stuff into the laundry room. It was terrible. The room was tiny, barely big enough for the cot and a small dresser. There was no window, just a fluorescent light that buzzed constantly. The washing machine and dryer took up half the space, and the room smelled like detergent and damp clothes no matter what I did. After 12-hour shifts at the hospital, I'd come home exhausted and try to sleep on that uncomfortable cot with the buzzing light and the smell of laundry. I started getting headaches. My back hurt all the time, but whenever I tried to mention it to Mom, she'd just say I was being dramatic. Nicole wasted no time making herself comfortable. Within the first week, she'd rearranged all the furniture in the living room. Mom's favorite chair moved to the basement because Nicole said it didn't match her aesthetic. The family photos on the mantel replaced with Nicole's decorative candles. Then she started going through the house and throwing things away. My old books from high school gone. My diploma certificates in the trash. I found them when I was taking out the garbage and had to fish them out. Coffee grounds and all. "Those were just collecting dust," Nicole said when I confronted her. "You need to learn to let go of clutter." I tried talking to Mom about it. She's throwing away my things. She's rearranging everything. "This is your house." Mom just patted my hand. "You're exaggerating, honey. Nicole's just trying to help. You always were dramatic." Nicole also had opinions about how much time I spent at home. Never mind that I worked 50-hour weeks at the hospital. If I was home in the evening, she'd make comments. "Don't you have friends to hang out with?" She'd say, "You're always here. It's weird for someone your age." Or, "I thought working people were supposed to have social lives." I'd be sitting there after a 10-hour shift eating dinner, and she'd look at me like I was intruding in my own home. Matthew never said anything. He'd just look uncomfortable and change the subject. Mom, of course, thought Nicole was wonderful. "She's so organized," Mom would say. "So put together. Matthew is lucky to have her." I stopped trying to complain. Nobody was listening anyway. Thanksgiving was coming up, and I'd been planning to cook like I always did. But 3 days before Nicole announced she was taking over, "No offense, Luna," she said, "but your cooking is terrible. We're tired of eating whatever you make for holidays. I'll handle Thanksgiving dinner." Mom actually nodded. "That's very sweet of you, Nicole. Luna, you can just relax this year." I wasn't sure whether to be insulted or relieved, mostly insulted. Thanksgiving Day arrived and Nicole spent the entire morning in the kitchen. She kicked me out when I offered to help, saying she had everything under control. I retreated to my laundry room and tried to nap, but the smell of turkey cooking made it impossible. By the time dinner was ready, the table looked like something out of a magazine. Nicole had used Mom's good china, the stuff we only brought out for special occasions. She'd even made a centerpiece with fall leaves and candles. We all sat down, and immediately I could feel the tension. Mom was at the head of the table, Matthew and Nicole on one side, me on the other. Mom kept fussing over Matthew, asking him about work, about Seattle, about everything. She barely looked at me. I ate quietly, feeling like a ghost at my own family's table. After dinner, we moved to the living room. Mom was showing Nicole some old photo albums, the ones full of pictures of Matthew as a kid. I started clearing the table, scraping plates and loading the dishwasher. That's when Matthew called me into the living room. "Luna, come sit down," he said. "We need to talk about something." I dried my hands and sat in the chair. Nicole had declared didn't match her aesthetic. Mom was on the couch next to Matthew and Nicole. All three of them facing me like this was some kind of intervention. So Matthew started glancing at Nicole. "We've been talking and we've decided we're going to stay here long term. Maybe permanently." I blinked. "Permanently?" "Yes," Nicole said. We think it makes more sense. We can help with Mom and it's more affordable than Seattle. Matthew nodded. Which means we need to figure out the living situation for adults in this house is too many. You either need to stay in the laundry room permanently or you need to find your own place. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're kicking me out. We're not kicking you out, Nicole said with an indulgent smile. We're just saying it makes sense for you to move on. You're young. You should be building your own life. I looked at Mom, waiting for her to say something. Anything. Luna, honey, Mom said softly. Maybe they're right. You should be living your own life, not wasting your youth taking care of your old mother. Matthew and Nicole can help me now. You deserve to be free. I felt something break inside me. 3 years of paying every bill, buying every medication, making sure she ate right and took her pills on time. 3 years of spending almost everything I earned just to keep her comfortable and healthy. And this was how she saw it, like I was the one being helped. Okay, I said quietly. If that's what you all want, I'll leave. Mom reached out like she wanted to touch my hand, but I stood up before she could. I'll pack tonight, I said. I went to the laundry room and started throwing my clothes into garbage bags. I didn't have much. Most of my stuff was still in boxes from when they'd kicked me out of my real bedroom. I worked quickly, mechanically, trying not to think too hard about what had just happened. My phone was on the cot and I grabbed it and called my friend Madison. Hey, she answered. Happy Thanksgiving. How's dinner? Can I come stay with you? I asked. My voice cracked a little. Of course. Come over right now. I loaded everything into my car. It only took 3 trips. Mom stood in the doorway watching me, wringing her hands, but she didn't try to stop me. Matthew and Nicole had disappeared upstairs. I drove to Madison's apartment on the other side of town. She opened the door and immediately pulled me into a hug. That's when I finally cried. I cried for everything. For the 3 years I'd spent taking care of Mom. For the money I'd spent that I'd never get back. For sleeping in a laundry room like I was some kind of burden. For the way Mom looked at Matthew like he hung the moon while I was invisible. Madison held me and didn't say anything. Just let me cry it out on her couch. When I finally stopped, she made tea and we sat together. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. I told her about Matthew and Nicole showing up, about losing my room, about Thanksgiving dinner and their announcement. Madison listened, getting angrier with every sentence. They're using you, she said when I finished. They've been using you this whole time. I know, I whispered. You know what, though? Madison said. Maybe this is good. Maybe this is exactly what you needed. I looked at her like she was crazy. I'm serious, she said. You've been stuck in that house for 5 years, paying for everything, sacrificing everything, and getting nothing back, not even a thank you. Now you're free. You can actually live your life. I don't feel free. I said, I feel like I failed. You didn't fail. They failed you. I stayed on Madison's couch that night, and for the first time in months, I actually slept well. No buzzing fluorescent light, no smell of detergent, no Nicole making passive-aggressive comments. Maybe Madison was right. Maybe this was the beginning of something better. 4 days later, my phone rang. It was Mom. Luna, she said. Her voice sounded normal, cheerful, even like nothing had happened. I need you to transfer me some money for me medications. I went to the pharmacy and they won't give them to me without payment. I stared at my phone. Luna, so can you send it? I need about $800. They said the insurance didn't cover it this month. That's when I realized. Mom thought Medicare covered everything. She had no idea that I'd been paying $800 every single month out of my own pocket for her medications. She didn't know about the extra $300 for supplemental insurance. She didn't know about the $900 mortgage payment I'd been making. She thought I'd just been helping out a little with groceries. "I can't," I said, asked Matthew. I hung up. A week passed. I stayed with Madison and picked up extra shifts at the hospital. I needed to keep busy, needed to not think about Mom or Matthew or any of it. Then Matthew called. "Luna, we need to talk," he said. He sounded stressed about Mom's medications. They cost $800 a month. "Are you serious?" I almost laughed. "Yeah, Matthew. $800 a month every month for 3 years. That's insane. How is that even possible? Medicare doesn't cover everything. There's her diabetes medication, blood pressure pills, the supplements the doctor recommended. It adds up. Well, you need to keep paying for it." He said, "No, you and Nicole said you were going to help Mom, so help her. I'm done." "Luna, that's not fair. We can't afford." "I couldn't afford it either, Matthew. But I did it anyway for 3 years. Now it's your turn." I hung up before he could argue. 2 weeks went by. I heard nothing from any of them. I started looking at studio apartments in my price range. Madison said I could stay as long as I needed, but I wanted my own place. I wanted to start over. Then Mom called again. This time she was crying. "Luna, please. I need to see you. Can we meet somewhere?" Part of me wanted to say no, but she sounded genuinely upset, so I agreed. We met at a cafe downtown on my day off. Mom looked tired. She'd lost weight, and there were dark circles under her eyes. She sat down across from me and immediately started talking. The bank called. She said, tears streaming down her face. They said the mortgage payment is overdue. I don't understand. I thought it was being paid automatically. I pulled out my phone and opened the banking app. I'd prepared for this. I'd made a spreadsheet with every expense over the last 3 years. I showed it to her. $900 a month for the mortgage, $800 for your medications, $300 for supplemental insurance, plus groceries, utilities, co-pays for doctor visits. It averaged about $2,500 to $3,000 every month. Mom's hands were shaking as she looked at the numbers for 3 years. I continued, "That's about $90,000, Mom. Maybe more." "I had no idea," she whispered. "I thought you were just helping with groceries. I thought Medicare covered everything else. Why didn't you tell me?" "You never asked," I said. "You were too busy sending money to Matthew and talking about how wonderful he was. You never once asked what I was spending." She was sobbing now, and people in the cafe were starting to stare. "I can't pay the mortgage anymore," I said. "Matthew and Nicole said they'd take care of you, so let them." I walked out of the cafe and didn't look back. 2 weeks later, Nicole showed up at Madison's apartment. I opened the door, and she pushed past me into the living room. "You need to come back," she said. "You need to keep paying your mother's bills. Number. She could die without her medication." "Luna, is that what you want? You want to kill your own mother?" I felt my temper rising. I spent 3 years and $90,000 keeping her alive. I gave up everything for her. And you kicked me out of my own home and told me to sleep in a laundry room. You don't get to guilt trip me now. "You're selfish," Nicole spat. "You're greedy and malicious and selfish. Get out," I said. She left, slamming the door behind her. The next morning, Mom called again. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. "Luna, please forgive me." She sobbed. "I've been such a terrible mother. You saved my life. You literally saved my life for 3 years, and I treated you like you were nothing. I'm so sorry. Please come home." I took a deep breath. "I'll pay for 1 more month of medication," I said. "Just 1 month while you apply for assistance programs. But I'm not coming home. That's my offer, Mom. Take it or leave it." She took it, I sent the money that afternoon. Then I went apartment hunting and found a small studio I could afford if I worked double shifts. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I signed the lease that week. For the next month, I worked constantly. Double shifts, overtime, whatever I could get. I needed to rebuild my savings. I needed to feel like I was moving forward instead of drowning. Nicole called once more asking for money. She said Matthew didn't earn enough and they couldn't afford anything. I refused and blocked her number. Then one day, Matthew showed up at the hospital. He waited for me in the lobby until my shift ended. "Luna, I need to talk to you," he said. "Nicole left me. She went back to Seattle and filed for divorce. She couldn't handle the money situation. I didn't know what to say to that." "I'm sorry," he continued. "I'm sorry for how we treated you, for kicking you out for everything. You were right. I was wrong." "Okay." I said, "I'm moving out too. I can't afford to pay for everything. Mom's asking for you to come back." "I'm not coming back, Matthew." I figured for what it's worth, I told her to hire help. "Maybe someone from your hospital, an aide or something." "That's probably smart," I said. He nodded and left. I never expected to hear him apologize, but it didn't change anything. The damage was done. Mom did hire someone, a home health aide named Patricia. I heard about it through Patricia herself. We worked at the same hospital. "Your mom's really nice," Patricia told me one day, "but she talks about you a lot. Says she misses you." "That's nice," I said, not sure how to respond. 3 months passed. I settled into my studio apartment. I worked my shifts. I started saving money again. Slowly, I began to feel like myself. Then Patricia pulled me aside at work. "I thought you should know," she said carefully. "Your mom has been telling her relatives that you abandoned her, that you're living comfortably while she suffers and you refuse to help." I felt rage bubble up inside me. After everything, she was still playing the victim. That night, I sat down and wrote a letter. I attached every bank statement, every receipt, every piece of evidence showing what I'd spent over 3 years. I sent copies to Mom, to Matthew, and to every relative Mom had been complaining to. Within days, my phone started ringing. The relatives called one after another. My aunt, my uncle, 2 cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. They all said the same thing. "Luna, we had no idea. We're so sorry we believed her. You're an amazing daughter." I accepted their apologies, but kept the conversation short. I wasn't interested in rehashing everything. The truth was out. That was enough. A week after I sent the letters, Mom called and asked to meet again. Same cafe as before. She looked different this time, smaller somehow, older. She sat down and didn't say anything for a long moment. "I read your letter," she finally said. "I saw all the statements, all the receipts." "Good. I need to tell you something," she continued. Her voice was shaky. "Something I should have told you a long time ago. I always treated Matthew better than you. I know I did, and it wasn't fair. I waited. He just seemed more promising, more ambitious. I thought he was going to do great things. And you were always so quiet, so content to just help. I took you for granted. Yeah, I said you did. I was a terrible mother to you. I let you down in every way that mattered. And I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry." Tears were running down her face, but I felt numb. I'd wanted to hear this for years, but now that she was saying it, it just felt empty. "I appreciate the apology," I said. "But it's going to take time, Mom, a lot of time, and our relationship is never going to be the same as it was." "I know," she whispered. "I know." We sat there for a while longer, not saying much. Eventually, I finished my coffee and left. I didn't hug her goodbye. Life moved on. I kept working my double shifts. I kept saving money. Slowly, my bank account started to look healthy again. Then something unexpected happened. I got promoted to senior nurse. My supervisor called me into her office and told me I'd been doing excellent work, that I was reliable and skilled, and that they wanted to give me more responsibility. The promotion came with a raise. Not huge, but enough to make a real difference. I celebrated by buying myself a new coat. Something nice, something just for me. I also started taking management courses at the community college. If I was going to move up in my career, I needed the credentials. 2 nights a week I'd go to class after work. It was exhausting, but it felt good to be working towards something. Mom sold the house. She couldn't afford to keep it, not without my help. She moved into a subsidized apartment for seniors. It was smaller, but she said it was easier to manage. She was becoming more independent, learning to handle her own medications and appointments with Patricia's help. Matthew found a permanent job at a shipping company. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. He started sending Mom money every month to help with expenses. Not much, but something. 6 months after I left, the hospital management called me in for another meeting. They offered me a position in human resources, senior HR coordinator. It came with a significant pay increase and better hours. I accepted immediately. The new job changed everything. Suddenly, I was making more money than I'd ever thought possible. I was working normal hours. I had weekends off. I had a life. I found a better apartment, a 1-bedroom in a nice neighborhood. I bought real furniture instead of secondhand stuff. I started going out with friends again. Madison and I went to concerts and movies and just did normal things that normal people in their 20s did. Mom and I talked occasionally, brief phone calls, maybe once every few weeks. She'd tell me about her apartment, about Patricia, about the senior center activities. I'd tell her about work. The conversations were cordial but distant. Matthew texted sometimes, usually just to check in to see how I was doing. I responded, but didn't reach out first. We weren't close, and I didn't think we ever would be again. 2 years after I left that house, I looked at my life and barely recognized it. I had a career I was proud of. I had my own place. I had savings in the bank. I had friends and hobbies and time for myself. Most importantly, I had peace. I'd spent so many years taking care of everyone else, sacrificing everything for people who didn't appreciate it. And where had it gotten me? Sleeping in a laundry room and being told I was dramatic when I complained. Now I was taking care of myself. And it turned out I was pretty good at it. Sometimes I felt guilty, like maybe I should have tried harder with Mom, should have forgiven her faster, should have helped Matthew more. But then I'd remember that night in the laundry room packing my things into garbage bags while my family watched. I'd remember Nicole throwing away my certificates. I'd remember Mom's face at Thanksgiving, looking at Matthew like he was everything while I was nothing. And the guilt would fade. I made the right choice. I chose myself, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat.